So my last Dragon's Dogma video gained a lot more traction than I thought it would, which is awesome because I'm doing my part. I'm doing my part in spreading this gem of a game that should be experienced by everyone, and it's coming to Switch. So I figured as a follow-up video, because people seem to be interested in this game, part of the reason it's so well respected as such a cult following is because it's kind of a little different. I thought I would give a few tips. Things that you should know going into Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen for the Switch. I'm going to throw in a couple little bonus facts too, but I got 5 key things that you guys should kind of be aware of when going into this game. Just keep it in your mind. And we're going to start off with number 1. Quests cancel in this game. You can get to a point where you can no longer complete a quest. This is fairly different from most open world games. The thing that kind of sucks about this is they don't tell you when the quests are necessarily going to cancel. Basically, the main story is broken up into like a couple story segments, and within those story segments, there are certain side quests that can only be done, which is supposed to kind of represent the passage of time a little bit, plus like some of the world map alters a bit so things aren't necessarily possible. Basically, in a non-spoiler way, it's fairly easy to Google what quests you can do within certain main story chunks. And if you're interested in doing those side quests within those main chunk story quests, I would highly recommend Googling it because I don't know. The good news is a lot of the quests, the side quests in Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen aren't like super compelling. It's more for like grinding experience and things of that nature. But for those who like to complete everything, definitely worth a look before you have to essentially restart your save. Because another fun fact about Dragon's Dogma, we'll call it bonus tip 1. You only get one save. So keep that in mind. Alright. Number 2, your starting class doesn't matter. This is not explained to you in any way, shape, or form. Basically, at the start of the game, they give you a choice between 3 starting classes. And it's kind of implied that that's going to be your class, but that is not true at all. You can pick any, you can change more or less very shortly after you choose that class. You just have to get to one spot, so you can start with that class, and if you don't like it, that's fine. Feel free to change classes as you'd like. And those 3 classes are not the only 3 classes in the game. Fair number more open up at some point in the game. So those 3 classes are kind of base classes that represent the core of the specialized classes, so maybe find one that you like, and the stats relatively are correlated, like when you level up with a certain class, that is relatively correlated to how you're going to perform in that like range. So it would be good to find the core class that you like and pick a specialized class later down the line. But there's no pressure in the early game. It's kind of what I'm getting at. And we're going to start with the first kind of bonus thing. We are doing a giveaway. Every 10 subscribers, we give away a Steam code. There's more information on our channel page, or you can shoot me a link down below. If you have any questions, shoot me a comment. The only qualification is that you be subscribed and you have your subscription status as visible. But yeah, alright, let's keep going with this. There is limited fast travel in this game. And when the original Dragon's Dogma came out, it was actually totally, basically, no fast travel. There was like one way to do it, and it was super hard. It's a lot more lenient, but it's still relatively limited. And that just... But that's part of the world. Part of the world is understanding all of it and experiencing all of it, and going on trips to places is supposed to be challenging. So it's kind of by design, and it's not as bad as it sounds. And the world is actually relatively small compared to what we're used to nowadays. So I wouldn't see it as a bad thing. But it is a thing. You will be able to fast travel to at least one point at will, basically, later in the game. But at the beginning, at least, there is actually absolutely no fast travel. So that's just something to keep in mind. You have to take this game at a different pace. You complete quests at a different pace, You move from place to place at a different pace. It's actually dangerous to go from one location to another in this game. It's not free. You can't just fast travel to it. Just a different mindset that you have to get into when you're playing Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen. Speaking of different mindsets and dangerous traveling routes, you might find yourself dealing absolutely zero damage. And that's because the damage system, while not broken, definitely leaves a little to explain. Doesn't necessarily explain everything. There's actually a really good YouTube video I will link in the description. I will timestamp the part where this guy goes into outrageous detail on the damage system. But damage, you can find yourself doing absolutely none. And that's normal. Don't be frustrated, because I got frustrated at a certain point in the game. Basically, you have to grind your levels, and you have to upgrade your gear or buy better gear. I will say, for me, this only happened in the end game, and I am not a completionist, so I'm also not a speedrunner. So I was, going at a very normal pace, and there was only one spot where I absolutely hit a dead end, and I had to grind. And the absolute last boss, there were only a few attacks that I had that could actually do damage. They were charge-based attacks, but for the most part, this was a non-issue. Just if you encounter it, now you know. And actually, yeah, let's start with that bonus fact number 2. Netflix actually just announced that they're going to be doing some Dragon's Dogma content, so this is awesome, guys. Fingers crossed. Hopefully the Switch version sells well. Hopefully the Netflix thing takes off, and hopefully we get a sequel. At this point, Capcom has redone Resident Evil. They've got a new Devil May Cry out. They've done all their games. We're ready for Dragon's Dogma 2. Let's just make it happen. All right. Last fact I have is the pawn team structure is very important, and this is Dragon's Dogma is a single player game, and you have very limited control over your party. It's not like a tactical party control game. That being said, you cannot ignore your pawns. They are very important. Your personal pawn is very important. Keeping that pawn geared up is very important. Making sure that pawn is good and is chosen by other people is very important, because if your pawn's chosen by other people and those people take the pawn on the quest, the pawn will learn things about the quest and be able to give you tips. As well as players being able to give you presents, among other things. Your pawn is very important, and the pawns that you choose are very important, and the structure of your team is very important. This is the kind of game where you don't want to just have 4 warriors. You want to have, someone with some range, someone who can heal you, someone who can get down and dirty, someone who is a warrior, and, maybe a more flexible, interesting class in that mix. But you have to choose your role and build your pawn class out around those roles, or your team's composition can literally make or break a certain part of the game. Like there were times when I would just throw myself at a boss over and over and over, and I would have to take a step back, go back to the rift, restructure my team entirely, and I could go through that section absolutely no problem. Also, you get pretty attached to the pawn, so it's kind of cool. But hey, guys, that's my list for Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen. Things you should know going into for the Nintendo Switch. I hope y'all are excited. Game comes out in a month now. Thank you so much for supporting my last video. Thank you so much for supporting my channel. And I'll catch you guys next time.